Hey there! Welcome back to One Codecamp channel. I am Ian and welcome to this video we entitled Passing Data from Your Webpage to Your Server. In this topic, you'll learn how to send data from a webpage to your express.js server using HTTP requests, specifically focusing on handling data via form submissions. We're also going to learn how to use EJS templates for rendering the form and then eventually display the received data on a confirmation page. Alright, so to get this started here in your desktop, we are going to create a new folder. So let's name our folder EJS. And then once that's ready, let's open our code editor. I am using Visual Studio Code. It will be better if you can also use the same one. Now, my Visual Studio Code automatically opens the folder we created back on our desktop. But on your end, if it did not open the folder automatically, you can do so by just clicking on File and then select Open Folder. Look for the location of our folder. So we did that on the desktop. And then choose the folder EJS and then select the folder by clicking this button. All right, so now once you are here on the folder location as well, we are now ready to open our terminal. So you should be able to see it up here. In my case, I maximize Visual Studio Code. Let me minimize this back to its default size. All right, one more. Okay, so this is how it should look like on your end. Press to open the terminal since we would like to install everything that we need for this project. We will be needing to run commands on our terminal, and let's open it by clicking the terminal button and then just push on new terminal. Or another option is to, on your keyboard, you can just press the keyboard shortcuts Control, Shift, and then backtick. Alright, so once the terminal is up, we will just need to confirm that it is pointing at the exact location of our EJS folder, and we're ready to start. So here, let me maximize Visual Studio Code so you guys can see better. Okay, it's looking good. Now here, we would wanna run the command npm init-y. So this command is going to initialize a node in this project folder that we just created. So hit on enter, and then once you see another file, this file named package.json, that means that we're able to successfully initiate the node in this folder. Now let us go straight ahead in installing all the dependencies that we will be needing. So we need to say in here npm install, and then the name of the dependencies you need. So we need Express, as well as don't forget EJS. Now you can also do just I. It will work the same. But since we are beginners, of course, we want to make everything as descriptive as possible so we can remember them better. So hit on enter, and it'll give you a loading bar, which might take a few seconds to be completed. While we are waiting for that, we can now create our project directory. So first, we want to create our server. I will be creating it in an app.js file. And then since we already have the server, we wanted to create a folder that will hold all the EJS templates that we will be creating. So inside, again, we're still inside the EJS folder. Click this new folder button. And then this folder that will hold all of our templates, we name it views. Okay, by the way, our install has been successfully finished. Okay. All right, now inside our views folder, so these are where all of our templates should go. What we wanted to do now, again, is to create a form. It will just be a very simple web page that will display as a form wherein users can interact with by supplying the information that it will be asking from the user. And then after the form has been submitted, we wanted to display another page that will confirm that those information has been received or it has been processed properly. So basically, we will be creating two templates inside our views folder. So for the first template, let's name it form.ejs. So make sure we are using the .ejs extension file name, since that's what going to tell our code that we would like to use the embedded JavaScript templating language for our templating. And then next is, let us create the confirmation page template. Let's just name that confirmation that EJS. Okay. All right, so now we are going to proceed in creating our form. So the two information that we wanted to ask from the user is just their name and what else? Maybe just their email address, right? Okay, so to create a form in EJS templates, from just like what we've discussed from the previous videos, it just looks like a typical HTML file. So we will need to populate our form with an HTML boilerplate. The way we do it fast is to, on your keyboard, just type in an exclamation mark. And then once you see that this Emmet abbreviation, just enter that or hit tab. And then we will be automatically populated with an HTML boilerplate. Now, this looks good. We will just need to change the title. So here, let's just say form page. All right. And then inside the body is where we're going to start our form. Let me see. So we, of course, wanted to create a title at the very top part. So let's use an H1 tag. And then we want to say, enter your information. Only I can spell this correctly. All right. And then under our title is, we are going now to start our form. Now inside our form tag, we of course have in here an action attribute. This is what's going to determine where do we want to send the information that this form we're creating will be able to collect. So this will be, we are setting up an action of submit for this form. And then another attribute we want to add in here is the method attribute. For the method attribute, we are adding in a post value. And then inside now our form, we would like to label our first information that we're going to ask, which is the name. So inside in here, the form attribute, we're just putting in here a name. And then this text to display on our web page. And then right after writing in the label, we are ready for the actual input field. So for input, let's add in here the type attribute for the name. It will be a type of text. And then we would like to add in an ID name of name. And then now we are also going to add in an attribute of name in this input field. And you guess it, we are going to name or put in the name attribute as name. So what will this name attribute do to us? This will help us get this information and then pass it to the next page, to the confirmation page as a variable. Like for example, if I added or I used the form and then I added my first name in this input field, Ian. So I input Ian on the form. What's going to happen is that we are going to make it happen that our application is going to process that information as a variable, and then it's going to be displayed, or it's going to be passed on to the next page to be displayed, and we can like manipulate it in however we want. And what specifically we would like to happen is for us to post in or display the confirmation and then use this information that we're able to collect to let our users know that we were able to successfully capture the information that they entered on the form page. All right, so after the name attribute, we also wanted to put in here required. Now this required attribute is going to help us require or let the user or enforce the user to add in information in this field. So it cannot be blank. It will throw them an error if they happen to not put anything on this input field. So that's what it's for. And then for the second information, we are going to label it. We're, of course, using we're setting a form attribute for that as well. And this one now is for the email. And we want to say email in here. For the input field, this will be a type of email, of course. And then we would like to set an ID name of email. And then guess what's the name attribute will be? Email. All right, so we are just trying to make it as simple as possible, so it'll be easier for us to use and manipulate this information later in our server file. And we also wanted this input field to be required. We don't want to proceed without this information, so let's add that in. All right. Okay, I think we're good with the input fields. Now, lastly, for our form, we are just going to add in here a button as our call to action button that will going to trigger the submit action. So it's a type of submit. And then we will just name or display a text that says submit for this button. And let me give it a quick check. All right, our form is looking good. We just want to fix the indentation a bit. Bear with me. Okay, all right. And then once all is good in here, let's save our file. And then now we can proceed in our confirmation.EJS. Okay, so let's open our next page. Now we are going to do the same thing for the confirmation template. Just open the Emmet abbreviation for the HTML boilerplate and then change the title to, so this is the confirmation page. All right. And then inside the body is, since we just would like to display text confirming the successful or the success of the form submission, we just want to say, let's use an H2 tag. Thank you. And then we would like to indicate the name of the user that we were able to collect. So now, again, since we're able to create or to tag those information that they will be inputting in the system as name and email, we can now use them as variables. So this is the reason, again, why we already close it, why we use those name attributes back here on our form template. So this is what they are for. We can now pass them on to the next template and then use them however we see fit. And then after you using the name, thank you, Ian. And then we also want to say, let's add in here a p tag this time. And then we want to say your email. Of course, we want to let them know that we got the email correctly by confirming it back to them. And then we are passing along the email information as a variable. So that your email has been saved. All right. Okay. Let me check. Okay. I'm good with this page just now. I'm saving our file again. Don't forget to save our file. And then now we are ready to finally set up our server. So for setting up our server, let's open up our app.js file. And then in here, we are going to start our server with, of course, a variable declaration of express. And then we are telling our code that this is required. Now, again, this line, it helps us import the express.js framework into our node.js application, this exact form application that we are trying to create. It lets us assign the express constant variable to the express.js module. And again, this will allow us to use the express.js functionality in your code. So we already have built-in methods and functionalities that we can use right away. And then once we have established that we are going to use express, let's go ahead and move on to the next variable declaration, which will be app express. Okay, now this line of code in here helps us create an instance of the express application by calling the express function. This is actually a function from the express.js framework. Now the app variable, it represents the express.js application. And then again, it will be used to define the routes and then all the configuration settings that we are going to configure later on. And then lastly, for the variable that we need to set in here, we're setting up the port number. So this line of code helps us determine where port are we going to initiate or trigger our live server. So at the end of our code, or once we have coded everything that we need, we of course would like to view our project in our browser. The way we do it is in Visual Studio Code. we have installed an extension that we that name Live Server. So it's down here on your Visual Studio Code. Once you click this, it will open up the project in a browser, and then you should be able to see how your project looks like so far. So if you don't have the Live Server installed yet, you can see it here on the left pane of your Visual Studio Code. Hit on Extensions, and then just type in here Live Server. Now, you should have like a blue button like these ones down here that says Install. Once that's done, you're ready to, or you will also have this Go Live button down here on your Visual Studio Code. Don't have that in here, obviously, because I already have it installed on mine. Okay, so going back to our app.js file, again, this is the port that we wanted to open specifically for this project that we are creating. And then next down here is we are going to set the configuration setting. So app.set view engine. Now, we are trying to set the view engine to, of course, EJS. EJS. This view engine is what determines how we would like to display or to execute our web pages. This will mean also that our application is going to use the EJS templating engine to render and then also to display all the views or all the templates that we created inside our view folder. And of course, this is very essential for rendering EJS template later in the code. We won't be able to utilize EJS templating without this line of code at all. So make sure that you added this into your server. And then down here is where we are going to set up our middleware. So app.use, and then let me just go ahead and type this one, express that URL encoded. And then inside curly braces, we want to say we wanted to initialize our extension. Okay, so now this line of code in here, don't forget the semicolon. All right, so this line of code in here is our middleware configuration. This will allow us to make our Express application be parsed or be connected as a URL encoded form. And this is, in other words, this is what's going to activate our form as for it to like collect data that has been sent to the HTTP post request. And then it is also going to make use of this line in here, the express.url encoded middleware, to handle form data and then also populate the that body with the data that it was able to collect. So if that sounds a bit complicated, just think of it as what's going to handle the functionality of the form being able to collect data, store that data that was collected, and then use it to manipulate or to display other information on any web pages or in any way that our application needed to do. And then down in here is we have the route. We are going now to set the route to render the pages of our web page or of our application. So the first page that we wanted to render is the form page. Correct. Rest. And then we would like to encapsulate that. Now, this route that we're creating, again, is to display our form page, this form.ejs file in here. And then it's also going to define the route for handling the HTTP GET request to this URL endpoint. Like whenever we access this URL, so of course, it will be the initial port that we created, the initial port that we're going to initialize or to utilize, and then followed by the dash form for us to access this specific web page. What's going to happen is that at the endpoint of this URL, we will now be able to access to make these form accessible for the users end, and then we are now collecting their information by utilizing the callback function, this function in here that we are now going to set up. Inside this, we want to say res.render and then form. So again, this now line of code in here, this entire chunk of code is what makes our form template be visible on the user's end, and what is also responsible for activating the HTTP GET request to be also included in this URL. And then later on, I'm going to show you how we can all pass these information to be used on the next template that we are going to set. So now, down here is another route that we would like to set up. So instead of app.get, this time we are going to use the app.post to handle the form submission. So let's just put in here submit. This will be the URL endpoint of this page we're creating. Res. Okay. So this now, contrary to the form template that we displayed on our web page up here, this app.post line of code in here is what defines the route for handling HTTP post request. And then whenever a user submits a form to this URL, so we were now able to establish that whenever the form has been submitted, or once they hit the button that says submit, it will automatically redirect to this web page. And then the callback function, this callback function in here, is going to be executed, and whatever inside our callback function will be applied to our application or to our project. So what we want to say in here is that we are going to declare variables for both the name and the email. And then we wanted to say in here rec.body, res.render. And then this is where we're going to call in the file name, confirmation, name, email. Okay. Let me see what we did in here incorrectly. So we have confirmation. So we should have an opening curly brace in here, name and email. Okay. We might get an error in here since this is in lowercase as well as this form name. Let's change it to double quotation marks for uniformity. But let's see if it'll work. If it does not, we will just need to change this into uppercases to match the naming convention we did for our templates. But it's looking good so far on our server. Now that we are able to set up our server, the routes, as well as the configuration up here, we are now ready to establish the port that we have just created, or that we just indicated up here. So once everything has been completed, once everything has been run successfully, we wanted to run another callback function that's going to log this information to the console. So we just want to say server is running on port. So let's concatenate the port number in here. Maybe we can just use a template literal for our lives to be easier. So we're calling in the variable port by using $, curly braces, and then the name of our variable in here. Okay, and then don't forget our semicolons. Okay. All right, so it's looking good so far on my end. Let's see if this will work. So I saved the files already. Now, once we have everything coded on our 3 files, we can now run our server. The way we do it is we just type in here on our terminal again in Node, and then the name of our server file, which is app.js, hit enter. All right, since it displayed that the server is running on port 3000, which is the exact message that we wanted to see in here, it means that we are able to successfully or to code everything properly in here so far. At least that's what we would like to believe. So let's see if we will be able to see our web page now. So click on the Go Live button down here. And then let's maybe minimize our Visual Studio Code so we can put in here our live server alongside with it. Let's minimize that. And then where did our... Okay, so if you're seeing the same thing as mine, it opened this browser. you will just need to change this port, the last 4 digits port, to 3000, since that's where we set it to. Then just hit on enter. Now it's giving us an error of cannot get. Now let us try to change these. So like what we've mentioned before, it might be case sensitive. So these are like the lines wherein it finds the specific templates on your views folder. So maybe if you do it this way, let's see, it's still giving us an error. So it cannot get form submit. Let me go ahead and see what did we miss in here. Press that render form.ejs, and then confirmation. Okay, submit form, and then submit. All right, let's try. So on our app.js file, our server, let me minimize our file explorer first. In here on our first URL, the form URL, let's try to make it as the default or the URL, the root URL first. Let's see if that'll make any difference. Let's run our server again. Okay, then let's refresh our browser. All right, there we have it. So it appears that what happened here is that us declaring the URL to be form is not being accepted, since in every project or in every application that we are creating with Express, we will need to set up a default route first. So as setting up a route for the root URL or for just this backslash in here needs to be determined first before we can add in more routes or additional URL links in our project folder. So maybe as the landing page, we can just set the form page as its default landing page. So let's do that. All right. So I guess it's working now. So in here, what we want to happen next is to test if our confirmation template is going to be displayed as well. So let's just put in my name. So that's Ian. And then let's add in ian@email.com. And then hit on submit. All right. So we are now here on the confirmation template we created, displaying as the page. Thank you. Let me open this so we can compare. So thank you, Ian, the name variable that we use, your email. This is the exact email information I entered from back to the form page has been saved. All right. So it seems that both of our templates are properly working as well as our server. Let's go back to the form page. Or maybe we can add in a way for the user to just click a button and then they will be redirected back to our form page. So let me add the lab right here. So on our confirmation page, let's just add in here a link. So an anchor tag. And then let's add in an href attribute of where we wanted to send this link. If this link will be clicked, we want our user to be sent back to the form page. Or maybe that's just form, since this is our root URL. And then we just want to say for the link, return to form. Okay, let's save this. And then in every changes we will make in our project folder, we will need to run the server again. So Control C, and then type in node space app.js again to run the server back. Then let's refresh the browser, and then let's just type in here another information. Maybe we can just put in Brad, and then Brad@email.com. Okay, hit on submit. Okay, all right. So all the information matches still. And then we have here a link that is connected to our form page. Let's try that out. Okay. And we are back here on our form page. All right. So there we have it. That concludes our goal for this video of collecting and passing data from a web page going to our server, specifically the express.js server that we just utilized. So before we end this video, just want to emphasize that these collection and manipulating and displaying the submitted data is a very fundamental concept for building interactive web application. So I hope I was able to show you how we can do that using EJS templating. We will be making more videos about EJS, so I hope to see you on the next one. Thank you again for watching, and again, this is Ian from One Code Camp. See you!